Welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper, and as of 2022, we were still making homesteading mistakes that I'd rather never make again, and I'd rather not have you make. So in this video and a follow-up video to this, I'm going to show you some mistakes that we were still making on the homestead in 2022. So first off, let me say we kind of left the city life back in 2015. We moved 750 miles away from our native Wisconsin down to the Ozarks. Since then, we've been trying to just immerse ourselves in country life, in a DIY life, in a self-sufficient life with gardening and animals and various things. And we did some canning before, we did some gardening before, we did some fishing before, but now it's becoming more of a lifestyle than a hobby. And a lot of that includes various building projects, which is going to be the focus of this video. Is when we're building ourselves with the resources that we have available, and those resources often being the woods of the woods, you know, the different trees and stuff we have available to us right from the woods. Cedar is a great one to incorporate in our builds. Now here I have a lean-to I built off of the shipping container last year. Here I have a smokehouse, absolutely changed my life, but a walk-in smokehouse that I built last year. Here I have another lean-to I built. This one was off of the back of my mini barn. And here I have a little tin barn I built out of repurposed chicken house metal and some cedars. I think I built this last year too. Out of all four of those projects, each one I used cedar for my posts. Now I remember once I was looking to do a project and I wanted some posts for it. I happened to be at a hardware store, so I said, how much are your 4x4 8-foot posts? And they were something like 20 to 25 bucks a piece. And I sat there and I looked at the guy and I said, really? And I'm thinking about how many I wanted for my project. And I forget if it was going to be 100 or 150 bucks worth. It was either 4 or 6. And I looked at him and I go, all right, I'm going to go home and cut cedar. I mean, I would rather spend a couple moments with a chainsaw making some of these than drop 100 to 150 bucks. I mean, that should make sense to people who are trying to be more frugal, self-sufficient, more DIY. That should just make sense. It made sense to me. But here's the deal. If you look at those 4 building projects I showed you, half of them I'm going to say I did wrong and I made a mistake that I'd rather not have you make. Okay? The ones I would say I did right would be the smokehouse and the lean-to off the back of the mini barn. Now, the lean-to off the shipping container and this building, I'm going to say I did wrong. Let's zoom in once on one of the ones I did right. I'll talk for just a minute and then I'll show you this one. I'll use this as an example for when I did wrong, and I'm going to see if you can see and guess the difference just by watching. Pay attention. So this here was a lean-to I built off the back of my barn. I pretty much wanted extra area for the animals to be able to get out of the elements without actually putting them in the mini barn. And while I'm talking, you know, pay attention to this, okay? You're supposed to be observing this while I talk. It went up really well. I enjoyed the project. I did a good job with it. I'm happy to finally have it up. We also have a fence here, and I've got 2 gates on either side, which is going to come in handy too. Sometimes you just got to sort animals, work them through. Maybe if you're trying to deworm them all or shear them all or trim their hooves, you know, you can kind of feed them through a section. You know, if I'm working them from that pasture to this one, and I have this in between, I can keep them contained in here for a moment, one at a time, do whatever I need to do, and then send them on their way. That stuff will work. And I choose some nice big ones here. It's not the size that's the problem with the ones I didn't do right. But these ones I really like. I think I did a great job with them. And there's a difference between this and the ones I used on both of my other, my lean-to over at the shipping container and my tin barn. Let's see if you guys can see the difference. So here we are over at the tin barn. You can see I got a nice storage space for my kayaks here. I really like that. Can drive right up to here with my trailer, unload all the kayaks or load all the kayaks. Either way. And remember, while I'm talking, pay attention to this. And we actually have a fishing channel I'm working on growing just to kind of have a focus channel to one specific hobby. Like I said in the opener, it's part of our lifestyle and the way we provide, and it's cool to document and, you know, check out some of the stuff. I had many personal bests last year with Gar. Feel free to check out that video. But can you tell the difference now? Do you see what's going on here? So in years past, this has happened as well, where I've done a number of building experiments or building projects, not even an experiment, with cedar. And the problem that I ran into, and this really shouldn't be a problem for me, just because I have so much help available to me. You know, we just had our 8th child, and they're willing to help. They want to help, and we keep that little spirit within them when they're little, and we encourage that willing attitude, and then they just grow in capability. But so many people, they crush that willing attitude because they don't necessarily have the ability, and then by the time they're capable, they no longer have that attitude, that willing attitude. But here is one of the problems. You can see I got a knife from MT Knives in my hand right now. Recently spent some time over there doing some work. But this is the problem. It's the bark. Okay, I'm gonna shave a little bit of this off. See, now if I take this layer of bark off, it peels off kind of easily. See that? What happens is we get down to the actual wood of the tree. Now the wood of the tree is good. This bark is useful for a lot of things, but not for a building. So what happens, yeah, see? I don't know if you guys can see that change. What happens is if I leave this bark on, I can see, here's a perfect example. Right here, if you look at this, these are all little paths. Okay, these are all little paths that bugs have made. All this stuff is chewed up. All that, look at it just flaking out of there. They've worked their way through that so far. It was probably a type of beetle larva. But what happens is they live under the bark. And the bark gives them an opportunity to have a safe place where they can hide and begin to work their way into the wood. Here's another good example. You can see where it came in here and began working its way through. There's a bunch across here. So we continue down here. See, all this is just chewed up by a bug already. See that? And the problem is I left the bark on these. Now that's a problem. Now I got to remove them in place. It's not that hard to remove. And sometimes it even just comes off in big strips. You know, that's not that hard to peel. It can be fun. A lot of the children actually like that project. Probably better than some of the chores or activities they get involved in around here. But this is a protective layering for the tree when it's living. But when the tree's dead, it becomes a protective layering for the bugs. And that allows them the opportunity to begin to work their way into the wood. Now, I would rather not have to rebuild this and take out all these posts in a couple years. If it can last decades, you know, that would be awesome. That would be ideal. But if I do things wrong, I put it at unnecessary risk. And that's what happened by leaving this bark on. Good morning, sheep. How you guys doing? Hey, Jacob. You all doing okay today? You know what? The second video is going to be some stuff with animals. So when you see my next video about making mistakes in 2022, I'm going to show you some stuff that involves these sheep. So stay tuned for that. Now if you look here behind me, you see that I have some more cedar. This is being prepped for the post in my outdoor kitchen, which is going to go above the root cellar after I pour the lid on that. If you notice, these are all stripped down and ready already. They've all been debarked. Why? Because I am learning from my mistakes, and I would like you guys to learn from my mistakes as well. This is a much better way to do this, and I don't want to make the same mistakes twice because I know what's going to happen. I don't want bugs in my outdoor kitchen. I don't want to give them an extra hiding place to hide. I want things to be able to last and to be able to be preserved and to be able to stay longer. So therefore, I'm debarking these first. I shouldn't have still been making this mistake in 22, but I was. So I want that to be the last year that I ever made that mistake. And from here, I want to progress and do things better. Now, if you look here at the smokehouse, honestly, I wish you could smell this. It is amazing. But if you look here at this, I did debark these all, and it was one of my projects during 2022. As I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking about the timeline, I know I did that lean-to off of the shipping container and that tin barn, I think before I did the lean-to off the back of the mini barn and before I built this. If that's the case, I may have learned this lesson last year. It seems like timeline, I did that. That's what I'm thinking. I can't be 100% sure. I do know at some point before 2023 started, I knew this. And that's why I wanted to come clean and say I did make this mistake last year. Even if it was earlier in the year and I repented and changed my ways and started doing things better last year, I did make this mistake last year. One thing you'll notice too is this gives it a much cleaner look. Definitely inside this smokehouse, I wanted things to be better. So it's got a really nice clean look in there with the stuff that I have, a lot more so than if I would have had the bark. Oh, that should be an air freshener right there. Ooh, I love that scent. But besides being cleaner and looking more presentable, it's a lot better. It's just a much better way to do it because it's going to add to the longevity of this and kind of increase the opportunity that it has to stand the test of time. So please learn from my mistakes. I'll come clean about some other stuff in one of the future videos, but I wanted to put this out there and start this year right for myself and hopefully catch you before you make the same mistake I made last year, this year. I'll see you next time. Papa out.
Thank you for watching. Hit the like button. Thumbs up. For real.
The cow head is good?
Yeah.
That's because you know.